Welcome to CS288W Module 5, and this particular module we're going to talk about a couple of very interesting things I think you might have fun with. One is the server roles, so the different types of things you can add to Windows to make it have more capabilities, but even more exciting than that, because that's not very exciting, is the ability to hack. So I'm going to show you white hat and black hat hacking techniques, and we're going to use monitors and scanners in order to show how that works. So let's start with server roles. Now, server roles are things you've already done, but I'm going to explain a little bit more about how they work. So server roles allow a server to perform a specific function. The functions in a server role affects everyone who connects to the server, as opposed to a feature which only affects the server and not the users, and that is a quiz alert. Server roles examples, here's a few of these, are DHCP, DNS, Active Directory. So if we go into our server, just as an example, and go to Add Roles and Features, the first thing that comes up after we get past the initial beginning part here are server roles. So there's DHCP, there's DNS, there's all these different things. And by the way, server roles, I do want to emphasize that when you install a server role, it affects everybody, but a feature only affects the computer itself, and I'll explain what that means in a little bit more detail. So role services, it's very confusing. We just had server roles, now we have role services. So, what's the difference here? So role services, these are software components that provide the functionality of server roles. So after you go to a server role, go back to the Add Roles and expand any category with a caret next to it. Anything underneath that, when expanded, is a role service, and that's definitely another quiz alert. They are basically subcategories of server roles. For example, if you go into IIS and you install the IIS Internet Information Services role, underneath that you have several options: FTP, web server, and management tools, and those are role services. So let's take another look here. Oop, got the wrong button. Okay, so you can see all these server roles, and when I expand them, you have all these role services. There they all are right there. So every one of these that has a caret next to it with categories underneath it. All right, features. Features are components that add functionality to a server. So instead of affecting everyone who connects to the server, a feature only affects the server itself. They add more functionality and management to the server, but not to the end users. So if you install, for instance, the Telnet client, well, that doesn't really help any of your users, but it does allow you to be able to add some troubleshooting techniques to the server itself. Same thing with .NET or BitLocker, which encrypts all of the hard drive. Again, doesn't really help a user like a server role does or a role service, but it does add functionality by keeping the server itself safer by having it encrypted. And clustering is another one of those types of features. So roles and features we use in our class. So we're going to be using several of these different ones. We're going to be using Active Directory domain services. Actually, we already did that when we upgraded our server to be a domain controller. IPAM, we did that in Module 3, where we turned our support server into an IP address management server. DNS was part of Active Directory when we installed that on DC01. And DHCP, we did that when we installed that on Router 01 to give our client an automatic IP address. And the Network Policy Service, we did that to Router 01 when we turned it in from a regular server into a router where we routed all our traffic out to the internet. So sometimes you don't need to have a role or a feature anymore, so they have a mechanism in Server Manager in order to get rid of those. It's somewhat hidden, so you kind of have to know where it is. So you open up Server Manager and click on Manage, Remove Roles and Features. So let's just take a look at that, and you can see what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and cancel that. Let's go to Manage at the top, and there's your Remove Roles and Features option. And it's the same kind of menus that you saw to add rules, except for instead of checking the boxes, you uncheck the boxes. Very few roles are installed by default, and that's to save resources, but it's also to increase security. You should uninstall or reinstall them as needed rather than leaving them on when you don't need them. When you install roles and features, the second box in allows you to pick which server to install these add-ons. So this is a quiz alert. You can push out roles and features to any server connected to the domain that is also a 2012 server. So for my DC01, if I wanted to, I could push out roles and features to, say, Router 01 or support server. In the dashboard, you can see red alerts for any services that didn't start or anything at which you should be looking. So in some cases, you end up opening up Server Manager, and you might see some red alerts here at the bottom where there's some sort of a problem that you need to look at. Let's change gears a little bit and go into hacking. Hacking is not what you see on TV and magazines. In real life, you cannot hack a dinner or a club or your brother. So all these stupid TV shows that say hack this and hack that, it's not real hacking. To hack is to break into another server or computing device. It is against the law, so make sure you are aware of this. So you should know how it is done and what it looks like to protect your network. So you got to know what it's like to hack and what it's like to be hacked in order to fully understand how to protect yourself. So let's start with black hat hacking. A black hat is a bad person. Their motivations may vary, such as money, revenge, fun, or more. They look to steal or destroy another person's property. They cost the world $1 trillion per year. That's more than the economy of Russia and many other countries in the world. Very few economies reach $1 trillion, yet that's how much hacking costs. Most of the money goes to support communist, totalitarian regimes, basically evil people that are out there. Some gangs, organized crime, all that kind of stuff. All right, so white hat hacking is quite a career, ideal for some people. A white hat hacker is someone who tries to think like a black hat. They get paid a lot of money to hack into a computer or network, and this is an honorable profession. This is something that you should strive to do if you decide you want to go in this direction. You can do this even if you're just an IT administrator, because an IT administrator wears all the different hats as far as what they do for a company. However, you can specialize in being a white hat hacker if you want. So they usually find two ways in when white hat hackers are looking to try to look for vulnerabilities. The most common ones are social manipulation and open ports. So social manipulation is done in one of several ways. In many companies, it can be very easy. And when we do our white hat hacking in our consulting firm, this is the easiest way to do it. You just make a phone call to the company that you're trying to hack into, and you just pretend to be somebody you're not, and just say you forgot a password or something, and people just tend to hand over passwords to you. They can also send an email to fish for information, and this will fool the person into clicking on an icon or something like that, which will compromise their computer and send it back to the hacker so they can take control of it. It could also be a fax or a text to con people to send information back as well. The other major way that hackers get in is through open ports. So when in Lab 5, basically, you will be a white and a black hat hacker, and you will try to find out what open ports are on your server from your client and see which one of the 130,000 ports you can use to hack in. It might be several. So you can any open port or buggy firewall can be used to gain access. So sometimes we open up ports on purpose, such as for a web browser, we'll use port 80. And that is a pretty benign type of a port. It's not usually going to be used for hacking, but it certainly can be. Other times, people leave ports on the firewall that allow us to just go right in and take right over. So before there were firewalls, that was very easy to do, but with firewalls not properly configured, the same thing can happen. So what we use in a network is called a network monitor. It can be used to see any attempts that are being used to break into your server or network. They can monitor both inside and outside traffic. So whether it's coming from the internet or coming from your inside network, these monitors can watch out. They can notify you by text or email when there's an issue. You can also set thresholds. Like if you get just a few things, you may not be too worried, but if you get thousands, you may want to be notified right away. You can also utilize advanced intrusion detection or prevention monitors that can stop an attack in progress. These are fairly expensive things, but you can do that. Microsoft comes with a simple network monitor program and to notify you when needed, but you still have to set it up. And we're going to do that in our lab. Network scanners. This is what you'll be running on your client computer, and this is where the attack comes from. They're also known as port scanners. They scan for an open port on a network and tell the hacker what they are and how the open ports can be used to take over the victim's network. They can also be very stealthy and hard for a server to detect. We're going to use one of the most popular ones called Nmap, although it's the GUI version of it is called ZenMap, but it's the same thing. Other hacking tools include Netcat, Satan, Metasploit, John the Ripper, and all these other ones, Hail Hydra, AirSnort, and more. So our objectives were to take a look at the server roles and features and white and black hat hacking and network monitors and scanners. So let's take a look our lab here. We're going to put on our white and black hat, and we're going to download some software here. So you've got your different directions there in front of you can look at, so we don't need to have those up. So let's start by opening up Router 01, and we've already downloaded our program that will do our network monitoring. Now, Microsoft has replaced the Microsoft Network Monitor with a new product, and let's just go ahead and take a look. It's called Message Analyzer. All right, let's go ahead and run through the installation. It's pretty simple. And it looks like it's an email message analyzer, but really it's any kind of message that tries to come in to the server is analyzed. So don't let the name fool you. And while we're waiting for that to finish, let's go ahead and switch over to our Windows 8 computer and double click on Nmap, which is, again, that's the ZenMap version, which is the GUI. So we'll just go ahead and choose all the defaults. Just let that go ahead and install. This is going to be our attacking computer. For those of you who would rather use Wireshark on the server side, that is certainly an option, and you can get that from download.com. Just make sure you don't accidentally install the spyware that goes with it. And just make sure you check the boxes that you're about to agree to, that you don't accidentally agree to a lot of the spyware from there. All right, so we can update if we want. We're not going to update right now. That's okay. We're not going to participate in anything right now. Go ahead and click OK. And our analyzer is starting up. And our Windows 8 Nmap is just about done as well. Just agree to whatever it is that's on there. It's fine. WinPCAP is a program that gets installed, which is normal. All right, our Windows Message Analyzer is ready to go. So there's a lot of different features on here, and I really encourage you to check them all out. But we're just going to go ahead and do one particular thing that I think will get your appetite going. So let's click on the New Session in the upper left-hand corner. Then let's go ahead and click on Live Trace. Now we need to select our network card, otherwise it won't have anything to trace from. So let's go ahead and choose our local network interfaces. It'll choose both of them that are on there. Remember, the Router 01 has two different kinds. Now let's go ahead and click Start. So we're going to get information from both the internet and from our local computer as well. So right now we're seeing internet traffic and things like that, as well as internal. So we'll just go ahead and let that go. And we'll switch over to our client computer. All right, so our ZenMap or Nmap program is good to go. So let's go ahead and put in the IP address of Router 01. Now let's start scanning for vulnerabilities. Click Scan. All right, it's checking stuff out. It's seeing if it can find anything. Remember, the firewall is on, on our router 01, but there's probably some open ports going on. So it's doing all kinds of scanning to figure that out. So we'll do it both with and without the firewall turned on. All right, let's go back to here, and we can see from .75, which is our client computer, we can see the types of attacks that are going on here. And if you look closely, you can see, some of these are ARP requests, which is just a ping type of a thing, so that's no big deal. But now it's looking for all other things. It's looking for all the open ports. See, it's going through each of these open ports one at a time until it finds a vulnerability. So if you are on the receiving end of attack, you can say, hey, I need to go to my firewall or something like that and block access from this .75 because it's clearly scanning my network for vulnerabilities. And if it gets through, it'll give you other information as well, such as that it made a connection. Now we go back to our attacking computer. So this is our black hat computer here. So it says, hey, I found an open port on port 53 for DNS. I found a port 135 for file sharing. I found port 80 for web and 445 for Microsoft file sharing and encrypted service. So it found some ports in the upper range open as well. So that's pretty cool. You can actually see, what's open, what you can now take advantage of. So let's go ahead and stop it for a second here. We'll cancel. All right, and then let's go back to our other computer, and let's go and turn the firewall off. Now you should see a lot more traffic. So let's open up a control panel. And we'll go to turn Windows firewall on or off. We'll turn off, off, and off. Click OK. All right, now let's go back here and let's scan again. And now this time we should actually see more ports open by the time it's done because there is no firewall that's blocking us. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but eventually we should see a lot more traffic going on. Look at that, a lot more open ports. All right, so if you have more services installed, then you'll have even more open ports. So you definitely want to keep that firewall on, and then if you decide you need to, you can go to the firewall on the server that's being attacked and start blocking those ports as well. So when we're done, we can just go ahead and click the stop button, and you can see, look at how much traffic this thing has built up in just a few minutes time. It's just pages and pages of traffic. So if you wanted to, you could export that to a file and save it just by clicking the save button here, and go through all these different logs and take a look and see, and then you can remediate any of these issues. So go ahead and do a screenshot of any one of these pages with this open and running, and also a screenshot of your client computer showing all the open ports, and submit that with your lab. So back to our lab, there is a lab reflection and a knowledge adaptation, just like in the previous ones. So let's talk about what you learned, and did you have any issues? How did you fix those? And also there's an example of a response that you need to give. Find an example online of a well-known hack and how you would have tried to prevent it or make it less destructive if you're the IT administrator. Well, I can just give you some examples. One of the biggest types of attacks on the internet is the denial of service attack, and that type of hack definitely can bring a network down to its knees. So that's just one example right there. You could use that one, and you could explain what you would do to try to mediate that, whether it's purchasing new equipment that you don't currently have. So just figure that money is no object. So if you had all the money in the world to stop an attack, what would you do in order to do that? And so denial of service could be one of them, or unless you find another one that's more interesting on the internet, you can pick that one as well. So that concludes our Module 5 video, and we look forward to our next module.